This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self. Hey everyone, it's Rosie. I am really jazzed to be adding my friend Claire Chandler to the lineup of great content on Show Up as a Leader. She is the founder of Talent Boost, and she just does incredible work on advising leaders on how to grow their business with intention, with purpose. And her new series that she's launching on the show is called Growth on Purpose. I've had her on as a guest a few times, cannot wait for her to bring her wisdom, her humor, and all that is Claire into this feed. She is going to be providing you with a framework and practical actions that you can lean on to be intentional with yourself, to be intentional with your teams, intentional with your business, and really building a sustainable ecosystem with your talent so that you're ultimately future-proofing your workplace. Take a listen.
Hey leaders, do you make every decision in your business based on how it connects to your mission and long-term vision? Or do you wing it, hoping that if you miss your target, you'll at least hit the tree? Yeah, I thought so. In today's episode, I'm going to give you a powerful tool for running your entire business from one sheet of paper. This is an absolute game changer. So tune in and give me your complete undivided attention. You're going to thank me. Welcome back to the Growth on Purpose podcast series, where we are replacing the head junk and self-imposed barriers to the growth of your company and getting real about how to expand your business without losing your best talent. I'm your host, Claire Chandler. Get ready for some much needed leadership therapy as we continue to unpack the methodology that will take your business from thrashing to thriving. In last month's episode, we started to dive into the fourth and final pillar of our Growth on Purpose model, which is alignment on what matters. And we learned that when you fail to make tangible, powerful connections for your people between what they do and why it matters to your shared mission, you drive the right people out the door, leaving you with a leaky talent pipeline and a sluggish growth engine. Today, I want to bring this home by taking a faraway trip. Join me, will you, as we go to Mars. Now, I'm sure you know by now that there are some super smart folks at NASA and at SpaceX who have been working diligently on a strategy to travel to and land on Mars and then colonize it. And they know they can't just take any old rocket, launch it into space, and hope it eventually lands on Mars. They need to dial in the coordinates for that faraway, specific destination, and then reverse engineer the trajectory to get there. Now, one of the things that they need in order to get there is some sustainable way to transport both humans and supplies there to Mars and back, right? Because I don't know about you, but if I got an opportunity to go to Mars, I probably would want to return at some point. I think it's Elon Musk who said he wants to die on Mars, but he doesn't want to do it like on impact. I don't know. There's like a quote from him. There are many quotes from him, but we won't go there. But anyway, you need a sustainable way to transport the humans that are going to need to do the building, the supplies that they're going to need, the seeds and the ways to sustain the humans, there and back. But you need some way to do that in a round trip way. So you need a sustainable means of transporting. But you can't just figure out a sustainable delivery method and start sending humans and resources to Mars and back. It is really, really far away, right? And so what the scientists have found is that the moon, which is 1,000 times closer to Earth than Mars, has a remarkably similar environment to Mars. It has a lot of the same hazards and challenges and, landscape and all of those sorts of things. And so the plan is to establish a base camp on the moon, because the first couple of rounds of having the sustainable delivery model of humans and resources and supplies and food and all of those sorts of things will be a lot easier to test and adjust if the trip back and forth is 1,000 times shorter, right? Less expensive, less dangerous, less complicated, etc. And so that's sort of as we reverse engineer that trajectory, there's the landing on Mars and colonizing Mars. You got to do that by sending up multiple, humans and resources and supplies through the sustainable delivery model. And before that, you got to test and adjust all of that in a more controllable test environment, which is this base camp. And so the first phase of this was actually a rocket known as Artemis 1. And in late 2022, Artemis 1 traveled to the moon and brought up life-size weighted mannequins to the moon. Now, it's not like they expected that the mannequins would all of a sudden animate and then start to build the base camp, but they wanted to test before they put actual human beings into this new rocket, because it's kind of been a while since we've been doing this sort of manned spacecraft to the moon thing. And so they wanted to test that system first. And what seems like a tiny step is actually an important milestone in this overall Mars mission, because they need to be able to rely on the near-term priorities that they've put in place so that they can get to that next milestone and then ultimately build this sustainable delivery model, which will get us toward this longer-term goal of building upon and colonizing Mars. And so when you think about what it takes to envision a colony on Mars, reverse engineer what it takes to achieve it, and put the plans and the milestones in place to reach that goal, it's a lot like your long-term vision for your business, right? So let's bring this analogy back to Earth. I want you to think for a moment about your long-term vision as your Mars mission, and then reverse engineer it into your growth strategy. When we talk about this notion of a sustainable delivery model in the Mars example, in your business, that translates into systems and processes and capabilities and pipelines of talent. What do you need to have in place to ensure the sustainable delivery of talent and resources and products and services throughout your business, to your clients and your customers, so that you can achieve that long-term vision? And then again, as we reverse engineer, what's the medium-term plan that will serve as your base camp, that you can test and adjust along the way, so that as you map out your systems and processes and capabilities and pipelines, you can bulletproof them. You can make them as sustainable and replenishable and replicable as possible. And then how does all of that focus your near-term priorities? Think about how to get from where you are today to the end of this year. Your version of that Artemis rocket. When you reverse engineer, you can build a better roadmap. You can't just say you want to go to Mars and then launch your rocket and then hope it reaches your long-term destination. If your launch angle is off by even a fraction of a degree, you're going to miss your target by miles and miles. And the expense of that could scrap your entire business. So I want to take you through a mental exercise that will bring this idea of your Mars mission in a sharper focus. And it's going to enable you to run your business day to day from one sheet of paper. And we call this the decision dashboard. Now, I took you through this Mars mission, which feels overwhelming. I had you start to think about your long-term vision, which can also feel a little bit too far out into the future and too uncontrolled because there are so many variables, right? So let's start with just your mission. What you are in business to accomplish. Now, this is your do not pass go moment, right? If you and your leaders and everyone in your organization can't describe your mission consistently, you want to fix that first. And here's a quick test. If I were to ask 10 random people in your organization what your purpose is, what you are in business to accomplish, your why, would I get 10 different answers? Would I get more than that? And if so, that's a sure sign that your people, including your leaders, are kind of wandering around aimlessly, that they're not in alignment, that they do not feel a strong connection between what they do and why it matters. And it's also a pretty strong sign that if you actually hit any of your performance targets, it's through pure luck, not a carefully choreographed, reverse-engineered plan. And luck runs out. So if your mission is fuzzy right now, fix that. Now, for this mental exercise, unless you're driving, I want you to take out a sheet of paper or open up a fresh Word document. This works best if you have that page in landscape orientation, right? It's kind of turn it sideways. And once you've dialed in your mission, and we're going to do this sort of as a quick mental exercise, but I invite you and encourage you to go back through this episode and pause it, involve other people in this, and really take your time, because this truly will be a game changer for you. But once you've got that mission kind of well articulated and clearly worded for yourself, capture it on the upper right-hand corner of this sheet of paper. And then across the full page below that mission, I want you to divide it into 4 columns. Now we're going to start to populate those columns, but before we do that, I want you to flip the page over. And I know I said you're going to be able to use this dashboard and run your entire business and the day-to-day decisions from one sheet. And we're going to get back to the front sheet in a minute, but this back of the envelope or back of the sheet exercise is going to be super important. So when you think about your mission, on the back of that page, I want you to build a list. What are all of the things that you absolutely need in order to fulfill and to demonstrate that mission? What are the attributes? What are the experiences? What are the assets? What are the capabilities? What are the roles, the skills that you need? Make as complete and exhaustive a list as possible, with the caveat that anything on that list has to be mission critical. When you think about your A players as an example, those top performers who stand out both because of what they produce and because of how they get things done, their performance and their behavior. What are those attributes that they possess and they demonstrate that set them apart? So you do want to spend time making this list as complete as possible, because this is the biggest part. This is the biggest hurdle toward building your decision dashboard. And then once you have that list, I want you to rate your organization's current strength in every single item on that list. And you can use a rating from 1 to 5, right? Where 1 means that attribute or that item on your list is sorely lacking. And 5 means you have that attribute or that skill or that capability or that experience in abundance. Okay. And so take some time to rate every item on the list. And once you've rated every item, you're ready to flip back over to the front side of this page. Okay. Now, anything on the list that you rated from 1 to 3 or even a 0, right? Mission critical, totally absent. You're going to put in the first column. And that first column at the top of it, you're going to label that fundamental. These are the gaps. These are the fundamental gaps that you have currently in your organization. You've identified these attributes as mission critical, but you don't have them, or they are weak, or they are vulnerabilities for you. So put those in the first column. The second column is called levers. In any item on that list that you rated a 4 or a 5, because you said it was mission critical and you have it in abundance, these are your levers of strength. So I want you to put all those items from that list that you rated 4 or 5 into the levers column. Okay. These are your accelerators. These are your competitive advantages that you want to continue to lean into, whereas the fundamental gaps are the ones that you want to be very intentional and mindful about filling and addressing. The third column is labeled obstacles. So these are hurdles, barriers, limitations that you want to overcome. They could be examples such as low engagement, high turnover. They're not all necessarily metrics driven, but the more tangible and visible and measurable you can make them, the easier it will be to measure your efforts toward overcoming those obstacles and ideally turning those obstacles into opportunities. The fourth column is called wins. And these are everything from interim milestones. So thinking back to that Mars mission idea where you're reverse engineering it and you're kind of stage gating, those different milestones that it will take to get there. There are also your measures of success. So how will you know you have succeeded in fulfilling and demonstrating your mission and moving closer to your long-term vision? And it also includes quick wins. Now, ideally, you also want to identify a quick win at the bottom of each of those first 3 columns, right? So what's a quick way or a low-hanging fruit opportunity that you have to fill or address or improve a fundamental gap? What is one quick win that you have where you can press your competitive advantage by utilizing better one of your levers of strength? What's a quick win that you can implement to seize an opportunity, overcome or minimize an obstacle, etc.? And then that fourth column is really to capture how will we know success when we have achieved it? And how will we know those milestones along the way that we want to be intentional and mindful about celebrating so that we continue to build engagement and buy-in and commitment and enthusiastic contribution from the right talent in our pipeline toward our longer-term plan. Once you've built out this dashboard, this becomes your lens through which you process every single decision in your business, every single one, the day-to-day tactical, the longer-term strategic. Every time you find yourself needing to make a decision, and I know it's probably many, many times every single day, you're going to do that through the lens of how does this decision help us address a fundamental gap, play to one of our levers of strength, overcome or minimize an obstacle, and or help us achieve a win. And how does this decision ultimately, through this lens of the decision dashboard, move us closer toward our longer term vision? When you do this in a methodical, intentional way, and you keep bringing yourself and your team back to your mission, you make powerful, tangible connections for every single person on your team, including yourself, between what you're doing, what you're deciding, what you're spending time, money, and effort on, and how it moves the needle toward your shared mission and your longer term vision. I used this decision dashboard with a client who was looking to increase their market share, and they weren't sure that they had all of the right people and processes and decisions in place to do it in a sustainable way without breaking what they had already built as a company. And so I took them through a 90-day process, but one of the key anchors of that process was this decision dashboard. And they continue to this day display that dashboard at their employee locations. And in short order, actually within the first 6 months of working together, they succeeded not only in stabilizing their readiness to grow, but they doubled their market share. So this is a really powerful tool, and it's a very simple exercise that you can do literally on one sheet, okay, both sides of a piece of paper, to arrive at a much more consistent mechanism for making decisions. And the more you bring other people into your thought process of why you make certain decisions, especially when they are decisions that maybe your team does not want to hear, it will build their buy-in and their commitment for the longer road. And what this ultimately achieves is strategic fulfillment. If you don't have all 4 of these pillars in place, and you don't make these powerful, tangible connections for every single one of the talent that you want to keep in your organization, you will never achieve your growth strategy. But when you achieve strategic fulfillment, everyone on your team describes your mission consistently and with conviction. Everyone on your team feels a connection between what they do and why it matters. And the right talent stays, engages, and contributes enthusiastically to your shared mission because you have helped them envision a future that has a place for them in it. That is the power of aligning on what matters. And it's the value of implementing all 4 of these pillars of the growth on purpose methodology with intention and in this sequence. So as we wrap up this month's episode, I would love to hear from you. Please email me at claire@talentboost.net. I'd love to learn your biggest takeaway, your biggest aha moment. Share with me a draft of what you've scribbled on paper for your decision dashboard. If you're still a little bit fuzzy about your mission, I'd love to hear your rough draft. I'd love to be a resource to you to help you clarify that, because that is your do not pass go moment. I do read and respond to every email, and this time I will even send you a free gift. Now, if you have emailed me in the past, you know how powerful these tools are. I will send you a template for this one-page decision dashboard. So feel free to reach out to me. I do look forward to connecting with you. We have 2 more episodes left in this limited edition series. And in those final 2 episodes, we're going to bring this all together and tie a beautiful bow around this methodology. So until next time, thanks for listening. And don't forget to keep going, keep growing, and do it on purpose.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.